I just know we're going to run out of time with this interview, that's for sure, because we have so much to share. Kathy and I are thrilled and excited to share with you a gentleman, his story, with the help of a translator from the Amazon. Let's welcome to 100 Huntley Street the translator Mike Dawson and Shoefoot. Let's welcome them. Good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you.
To 100 Huntley Street. Now, Mike, you're going to be helping us through this interview to translate for Shoefoot.
Right.
Give us a proper introduction. Tell me a little bit more about this elder in the Yanunamu, if I said it right, village in the Amazon.
Right.
Whereabouts is he from?
He's from the Yanomami tribe down in the jungles of part of the Amazon jungle, the Amazon state in Venezuela, and he's from a tribe of about 500 people. But the whole, the village is about 500 people. The tribe is about 13,000, something like that, in the jungles of the rainforest there.
Okay, before we get into his story, how come you're fluent in his language?
My parents are missionaries. They went to Venezuela in 1953, and I was born and raised right there in the jungle and raised with them. I learned English after I was 7.
So your first, your first language.
Yeah, I learned English when I started the mission school.
But so your first language that you learned
was Yanomami.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yanomami.
Yanomami.
Oh, yeah, something like that. We were getting some diction lessons. We need that help. But in fact, we even have a book here that was written by your mother, Millie Dawson, and it was your dad, Joe Dawson, that shared the gospel with Shoefoot.
Right.
And you were actually born in the jungle.
I was born right in the jungle.
Like not in a hospital?
No, my older sister was born in the hospital just a couple weeks after my parents got to Venezuela. And it was such a traumatic experience for my mom. The hospital was so primitive that she figured that nothing could be worse than that, so she decided just to have me in the jungle.
Wow.
We have some pictures here as well that we'd like to share with you just before we start talking to Shoefoot. Mike, tell us about this picture.
Okay, that's a gentleman from our village. His name is Antonio. A very, very dear friend. Very dear friend.
Okay.
Just an incredible guy. And this lady's name is Kohoima. She's also from there.
I have to ask why the sticks or whatever that is in the lips and in the nose.
For beauty, of course.
Okay.
Yes, beauty.
And when does that begin?
Very young girls. They poke holes with a thorn in the mouth, and then they normally put a little piece of cotton in there until then they go to sticks.
Wow.
Okay. And this one?
This is one of the little boys from our village. His name is Joshua, and he's a character. That's
okay.
Okay, many stories.
And I think we have one more here.
Okay, that would be like a typical scene that if there are people are discussing something of very serious intent. You can tell from the paint that they have. It's a serious discussion. They're mad. They're angry about over something.
Okay, is that mud or charcoal or what is that all about?
Charcoal mixed with a paint out of a tree.
Now, is this a home or a meeting room?
That's a home
City
in
Hall?
that particular thing.
Yeah.
Because of the fire, I know that that's somebody's home.
Oh man.
But normally when they have black on, that's very tense. If it was something else, they would have a different, like red. They would be painted red or something.
Now, this is a picture from your village. Is that right? Neighbors or?
We just live right in that village.
If we can turn the interview now towards Shoefoot. It is so good to have you with us. If you can take us back to when you were younger, a boy, we understand that you were trained to be a shaman and became a shaman. In other words, as we know, as a witch doctor. Can you talk to us how you were chosen?
Yes, when I was a child, I was chosen, and they began to treat me to dope. If you're chosen as a child, you get introduced to dope very, very early, and they begin to blow it up your nose. And then a mature witch doctor would begin to take over your training and would begin to train you.
berhimain he kura berhimain mi shabori awa kuabaria.
The one who takes on the training would be a very mature old witch doctor that knows a lot.
How old were you when you started the training?
Iba iro yar kurina.
Let me just if I could interject.
Yes.
They don't have their counting system only goes to 1, 2, and many, and so they don't keep any track of ages at all.
Really?
But from knowing, he would have been a very young adolescent, probably 11 or 12 years old when he would have been started to be introduced to it.
Interesting. Yes.
Inte yare habai horai we he war kui suwe wabu mubu mai.
And he was, as he progressed in his training, one of the first things they tell you too is you'd have no further contact with girls.
Ya no bhe khabai kura bute suwe mu dao mi.
If you're going to be a true witch doctor, a powerful man with the spirits, you can't have even to look at girls, it would be kind of taboo. If you don't obey that, if you go outside of what your training is, then you will not become a true shaman, a true witch doctor. If you faithfully follow all that they tell you, then the demons will come, and you'll get the good ones. You'll get real good demons, or spirits, whatever they call them. But once you have all your spirits in you, and you've come and you've been initiated, then of course you can get a wife. And if you faithfully followed all that they tell you to do in the initiation process, then they're gonna say that you're clean and clean enough for the demons and the spirits to come, and then they'll come. And your chest is called the home, the village of the demons. And the demons won't come if that shabono, if that village is dirty. But once they come in, once you have them, then you're controlled by them. Your whole spirit is controlled by them. And they come at you very good. I mean, very attractive and promising a lot, and promising a lot of good. And they deceive you, and the whole process you get deceived. You think that they're going to help. When they come at you, they're beautiful. When you first see them, they're beautiful. They're attractive. And very friendly. Just their faces are just incredibly friendly when you're first getting them. And they're all decorated. And when you see them, you're just totally enthralled by how friendly and beautiful they are. But that all of that friendliness, all of that love and beauty is just to deceive you. But once you have them, then you have no more joy. But more and more of them come. More and more of them come.
Can you tell us about Mike's dad, Joe Dawson?
Behave Mikey Bahun, Joe Awarote, Mita Havada, Kortahet.
I me here at the everybody. Oh, I me to create a yakote, Mikey come and bring our can.
When I was living like that, Mike's father came to my village.
Me adare te pe the agom.
And when I saw him, he was just so clean. He just looked clean.
Okay, was that his skin or in his spirit?
Wedi kada mumu ago do dia obey buhi obey moheku o wedi.
Be moheku a moheku mumu nohi an mumu nohi a mumu au kulena pe parku ham arakure pe parkam no hudi arakure.
He said, first of all, his face was so friendly, just a lot of love demonstrated from his face. And yet also in his spirit was just white, just his spirit was clean.
Because as a shaman, he could read people's spirits. Is that right?
Okay.
He kula pere titire iha. He kula pere wa pere titi boi. Ia para buhire iha wadari ia para ungri ba titire. Sudu kai mania dai.
If, as a shaman, when he first saw the missionary, my dad, when he first saw my dad, his whole spirit was just white, was shining. And he says that's typical of a witch doctor seeing somebody like that for the first time. He said, my spirits, my demons got terrified.
So continue. Tell us about how you became aware of God, the God of love, the Spirit of God, the Spirit of Jesus, Jesus Christ. How did you become aware?
Kurena mi tere kui he kula are titirene. Mi tere Dios puire are bubore ha he yai para udi yai para ka kuado dia
When he first saw him, he recognized that there was definitely a difference because of the spirit. And then when he began to tell them about God, then because they already had seen a difference, and they did believe it, they did know, that there was some validity to what he was sharing.
Mike, I'm going to ask if you can fast forward for us in the story about him receiving Jesus Christ, and then I want to ask him about the changes and the battle that went on in his life.
Let me just try go simultaneous, more simultaneous to save some time. Well, why you inte show kami yaw why you show pamaka ihta roba He said that this is how, as he slowly became convinced of what Joe was telling me, then this is what I did finally.
Baby, I don't know him.
Because I was seeing so much love in him. And as he was telling me, then God's Spirit even began to show me myself, and I became convinced of the truth. And because I was aware of the terrifiedness of my spirits, then I was even convinced of the truth. And Joe kept telling me, well, believe on Jesus, and he can free you from your bondage. If you trust Jesus, he would say, then he can free you. And when I heard that, then my demons got petrified. And the more they did, then the more I even began to see my own guilt. And I became convinced that he was telling the truth. Because first of all, he had demonstrated God's love, and second of all, I could see it in his spirit, and so I was convinced. I knew that he was accurately portraying the Supreme Being, and I was in bondage, and I knew that. And the more I heard, the more it penetrated my heart, and I recognized myself. So I really saw that I needed to ask God to free me from my bondage, to untie me from Satan's bondage. And I began to think to myself how I could do that. And so I decided to just show all of my bad to God. And I went out into the jungle by myself. And I found a big tree that had blown down, and I sat on that tree. And I told God, I said, God, I know you're there, and I see myself, and I'm dirty. I'm in bondage. You see my bondage. You see how I am. Have mercy on me.
Yakuma.
And that's what I told God.
In the Hena, Yahu Koma, he came Yawarko Krayama.
And the next day I went back out there and I sat on the same tree.
In Hayaku Kondayama, ho, Habe Barpe, editor, he yar Okane,
And I said, God, you see my bondage. You see all that I am. And I can't free myself. You know I can't free myself. I'm in too much bondage. I'm suffering because of my bondage, and I can't throw it away. So I just want to give it all to you. And when I give it to you, I'm just giving myself to you. So you free me from my bondage and heal my heart. Make me yours. And I want you to be mine. And so that's how I showed I showed God my badness.
How did he take the demons from him? How did the demons leave?
Inaha yai barakuma, inaha yai barakuma, kulina hey be ya barika berkuli. O inaha yakute,
Well, when I was talking to God like that, my spirits got all excited.
Mi terku inaha yakuha, omaun ashihari monayoma.
And when I was praying to God, when I was sitting there on that tree, Satan got really excited. All the demons in my heart got really agitated, and it was warfare. And because of them, even outwardly, I just began to tremble. And Satan came running at me with a big. He just came very excited. And he came running at me with a big chain draped over his arm, a big black chain. And he built this cage around me. And yet I was outside of his cage, and he came running back to me real fast. And he had a big bouquet of flowers, beautiful flowers, and he held them under my nose. And it smelled so beautiful. And he embraced me, and he began to dance with me, still holding those flowers under my nose. And but a bright light came down and stood between Satan and myself. And I heard a voice clearly. And it said, Satan, leave him alone. Go away and don't come back. And Satan and all the demons fled at that time.
Now, prior to this, when you had experienced the spiritual realm, he was doing drugs. Isn't that right, Mike? He would always be inhaling, and that's what the shaman do.
That
they
is
get
correct.
themselves drugged
They
up so they can
normally
open
always
themselves up
use
to the
drugs
spiritual
as a
realm.
medium.
But at this time, he wasn't on drugs when he was seeking God.
That
Yet the
is true.
spiritual realm was still opened up. Isn't that right?
That is correct. Because we've it's fascinating. His story is so fascinating,
Yeah.
and I've asked him that different times.
What I find extremely fascinating as well, anthropologists have studied the Yanomamo people very closely as the most primitive people in the world, yet within their culture, their oral tradition being passed down, there was room for a supreme being.
That is correct.
So when he was introduced to your father, and your father started to explain about this, they had a place in their oral tradition, what they had learned, what had been passed down, what perhaps the demonic forces had revealed to them about the spiritual realm, and they knew there was a supreme being.
And you know, the witch doctors down in the deepest part of the jungle can actually describe heaven better than I can. I mean, and they describe it as if first person, they've seen it. They can tell you about the crystal sea and about the angels and the rainbow.
The evil spirits have seen it.
Yeah, and they always say, well, and you say, well, and I've seen it, but I can only see it from far away, they'll say. And you say, well, why? Why can't you get closer? And they say, the light is just too unapproachable. And I find that very fascinating because, in Timothy we're told that God alone is holy and dwells in unapproachable light. And yet also, they have a hell. Way before they ever heard of a missionary, they have a very, very clear idea of a lake of fire. And they even say a lake of fire. And the trail going into this is wide and broad. That's how they tell it. They say that this trail going into hell is, and the stingy people go there. That's what they believe.
Another thing that you recount in the story is that the demons were saying to them that it's a noisy place.
Yes.
Noisy. They called it noisy.
Noisy.
But in fact,
and they don't want to hear it. I've even watched them as they're having their out-of-body experiences. They'll cover their ears because they don't want to hear it.
What's
and you
going
ask
on
them,
where the Supreme Being
ask
is,
them,
up
what's
above?
going on?
Yes.
Well, there's these Ainboshokori, they'll call them, and it's a word for heaven. For angels. And they say there's these beings up there that just sing incessantly to the Supreme Being.
Wow.
And we don't want to hear the noise of it,
wow.
they'll say.
And what is it in fact?
Yeah, it's praises
Worship,
to God.
And that was prior to any missionary ever being there,
Absolutely.
the Bible being opened up. It was just their
Absolutely.
understanding being passed down through years and years and what the spirits have revealed to them.
Yes, because
Isn't that amazing?
to be honest, I was a little bit skeptical at first because I figured that as they heard from the missionaries, their legends had just kind of grown around it. So as I traveled a lot right after high school, I got to travel with the New Testament because we wanted to see how useful it was and how far away it could be understood because of dialectal differences. And so I would go days and days up these rivers and stop at each village and always talking. For a while, I just always singled out the witch doctors and asked them. And you get the same story all the time. They know of a hell, they know of a heaven, and it's incredible.
Just kind of in closing here, we know from Shoefoot that they believe in the spirit realm in their village.
Yes.
It's very real. Here in the West, we don't have room for that in our mentality, for this spirit realm. There's a lot that's in front of us, very entertaining, very tangible, very materialistic. Does he believe that there are evil spirits and God's spirit here in North America?
Yarawani. Hey, yet Brugabawani, Wakemakran, hey, Tebe Barawani. Hey, Wahuararu Unaka, wa Shaborioma, Uriam was Shaborioma, Hekra Wawa Badarema, hey, Wahuarabore, hey, North America, Wahuarabore, hey, Hekra Bodkamer Kurao.
Hey,
He says, yes, there are many demons here, and they're really in danger here, and they're
And
being.
what sort of things do demons do in people's lives here in Canada and the United States?
He said the way you can really tell, the way their works are evidenced. You see people's actions. You see people destroyed, lives destroyed, and you see that. You can know that there's a demon presence. Satan is a destroyer. The demons are destroyers, and they destroy people's spirits. And he said you can tell that by looking at Yanomama, and he can tell that by looking at people here that their spirit is being destroyed.
So, you have heard from the Spirit of the living God. What would you say to us here in North America, who unfortunately our culture says, is there a God now? We've taken God out of our schools, we want him out of our government. What would you say to us here in North America about the Spirit of the living God?
Kamantawani, hey kahan yai para wa hini wa dorema. Kahi wa no hipeja wa hini wa dorema. Kurena hey kamie yamakri kui hey yamakri kui ma yai para di ku mane kat hey te yamaku bare kidoi madayoa. Kurena yamake escuela ham hiru yamaki ham yamar yai para yamabe kahu bra kidoa. Kahu war kui wena kamie yamaki wa kudobe.
Kureda Mr. Kahubar, Kureda Mr. Quill, Yayu Mai, me pay to you, pay you a buhi Kahumai Madi. Hekurak, when Wabu Kahuman.
He said that again that's not just happening on its own, but that again is the evidence of the spiritual warfare that we're going through. Is in this attempt to knock God out is again another evidence of the spiritual warfare.
So again, it is real. The spiritual realm is real. And Jesus Christ is the one that can set anyone free, no matter what the demon is. There's
nothing else. There's no other way.
kule na moni ter kule yai para ter kule yai para ni ano per no hil pe ya
Only
pe
God
ya bi
can-
moni ter kule
Only God can save, break that bondage.
And I understand that with shaman, these witch doctors, if they wanted rid of the demons, usually they are killed.
That is correct.
They are killed. But Jesus Christ, God's Spirit, was greater than the evil spirits around. He was protected and he was cleansed. And now when he's in the presence of other shaman, they don't want to be close to him because of the Spirit of God that's in him. But something
Yeah,
about
that
still
is
the
true.
cavity, they look into
Yeah,
his cavity
yeah.
in his chest where the demons dwelt.
Yeah, I'm always baffled and amazed by that because I've traveled extensively with Bautista, and we'll get into places where I've been the only white person these people have ever seen, and I'm traveling, and the witch doctors will come up to him, they'll put their hands on his chest, and they'll say, friend or brother-in-law, they'll say, Shorty, what happened to you? Are you dead? Did you die? What are you? You know, and he starts laughing, you know, because they're so comical. But see, to them, if you were a witch doctor and you no longer have the demons, and you had to have died because that's the only way the demons would leave you. But he tells them, he says, no, I have God's Spirit now. And they say, well, we see all the tracks of the demons on your chest.
Oh.
It's evident that you were a witch doctor.
We could talk forever, but I'm so thankful there's a project being undertaken right now to capture the Yanomamo people and the story, and Shoefoot and other people that he has encountered and led to the Lord. In fact, the name Shoefoot comes because he's the first person that they saw in the village wearing a pair of shoes
That's
at some
correct,
point.
yeah.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And now he's taking the gospel message, the message of the Supreme Being and his love for them to the other villages.
Yes.
And God is doing some wonderful things. We appreciate you being with us
Thank you.
so much here
Yeah,
on
you're
100
welcome.
Huntley.